Alright, welcome everybody. We're going to run through some replays today. Week 2 of the Corporate Esports Association. We're starting with a series between the Google BetaStars and Google Yam, the Google Civil War as it were. These two teams faced off last Saturday. We're trying to do some catch-up before the matches start today. Just get some warm-up casting in. And we're going to go ahead and jump into our first match between the BetaStars and Yam. So, our first matchup between the BetaStars, Cicero, and the Yam's Zale. Spawning in the lower right are Orange Zerg from Yam, Zale. A little bit of chat coming down in the replay there. Sorry about that. In the upper left are Blue Protoss from Google BetaStars. It is Cicero. And just a heads up for everybody tuning in. This is the Corporate Esports Association. Our corporate teams will be facing off every week for a chance to take home fabulous prizes for the charity of their choice. Everybody has donated as a buy-in, and the winner in all of this is the viewers, is the players, but most importantly, the charities that we're here to support. Our Blue Protoss looking like he's getting that wall down at his natural, putting the gateway down, starting to close off that choke there. Drone getting in, starting to scout, looking for any kind of tech, any kind of scouting information he can get from the Protoss. One gas down so far, just now getting probes into it. He's going to send one probe to chase that drone away. Drone doesn't look like he's being watched. Meanwhile, the probe on the Zerg side, just trying to do a little pylon block. Zerg hasn't expanded as natural yet, but went ahead and taken his third, probably due to that harassment from the probe. Spawning pool going down, and the Zerg getting his first gas going. So, very standard opener from both sides. Nexus coming down from the Protoss. Looks like he wants to go ahead and expand to get that economy going. Looks like we could be in for a good macro game here. Still some harassment here in the Zerg natural. Pylon block still being annoying. That drone not able to get down. We'll see if Cicero decides to let that pylon finish, or if he can go ahead and cancel that. He will let it finish. The pylon is there. It's going to be annoying. Cicero is going to have to go ahead and get some lings out to deal with that. Spawning pool finished. Expecting lings anytime now. Queen coming out, using most of his larvae on the drones. Overlords, finding them a precarious perch there over the fan. Just taking a look at the Protoss natural, making sure nothing funny happening, no big army buildup, no sudden switch. As the gateways and Cybercore continue to finish. Looks like he's chronoing out that first adept. Maybe wants to get some more scouting information, maybe do a little bit of harassment on the drone lines. Several drones starting to transfer to the natural, or effectively the third natural for the Zerg. Spine crawler going down, just a little bit of extra fence there in case of any kind of early harass. This Protoss is being a little bit cheeky. That pylon's still sitting there at the Zerg natural. He's going to want to go ahead and clear that out so he can go up to 3 base. 2 base Zerg on a 2 base Protoss is a real benefit to the Protoss. He's going to want to Zerg, if he wants to stay in this, probably get that economy up. Certainly doesn't have much of an army, not much of a tech tree either. Adept just poking in, seeing that not a lot going on yet, decides to back out. He'll easily be able to deal with those 2 lings, not before taking serious hull damage. But he will be joined by another pair of adepts. It looks like they're just going to bide their time, maybe shade into the main, get some drone kills. Maybe just here to harass that natural, which still hasn't been placed, still hasn't been dealt with. Shades coming into the natural for the Zerg. Sees the Spine Crawler, doesn't want to engage, backs up just a little bit, gets a drone kill. Queen and the Spine Crawler will drive them away. And they're going to come back into the relative safety of the Zerg natural. Immortal coming out for the Protoss with ground weapons 1, while the Zerg, with the Roach worn down, also starting ranged weapons 1. Those Depth Shade in the back of Mineral Line, getting 1 drone kill, 2 drone kills, 3, but the Queen and the Spine Crawler are going to clean that up. Not terrible damage, but as long as the Protoss can keep the Zerg economy in check, it's going to be very difficult for the Zerg to keep up. Those 3 Roaches are going to start working down that pylon, give the Zerg a chance to expand. Meanwhile, in the Protoss base, just very slowly teching up, more gateways going down. Warp Prism coming across the map, has 2 Immortals in it. These 2 Immortals are going to be very effective against the Roaches. When he gets over here, just a handful of Roaches on the ground. We'll see if he can effectively micro those Immortals in using the Warp Prism. Roaches getting split up at possibly the worst time as those Immortals come out. The Immortal shields fire, and 1 Roach is immediately taken down. Warp Prism chasing them down. Just got that killer instinct, bloodlust. More Roaches going down. Roaches just falling left and right. Another Roach coming in from the rally, but these Immortals are basically going unchecked. A few more Roaches spawning now. It's not going to be enough to stop those Immortals. If this Queen can get the pick off on the Warp Prism, that would be a major benefit, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Even more Roaches continuing to fall. Just a little bit of hull damage on those Immortals now. Zerglings pop, and they are also going to be pretty ineffective. Immortals going ahead cleaning up that Queen. Zerglings running in, picks up the Immortals, decides to back out for now. Hatchery almost finished at the natural, but we'll see if the Protoss allows that to happen. Just Warp Prism just hanging out for now as the Zerg continues to rally more and more Roaches to his front. Immortals dropped at his natural now. Spine Crawler getting some good pokes in, pulls the drones, just trying to get anything done, but getting just nothing, just brutal damage from our Protoss against the Zerg. More Lings rallying in. It really needs to kind of group up all of these units and hit those Immortals all at once. Those Immortals with that +1 weapon upgrade are just going to do so much damage. With Warp Gate finished and the Warp Prism in Warp In mode, Protoss can easily reinforce here and just really go for the killing blow. Zerg doesn't have a whole lot. Worker count down to 27 against Protoss's 50. Zerg has a little bit of an army. Looks like he is grouping up, getting all those Lings together. Maybe make a big push against those Immortals to try to clean it up, but the hatch at the 3rd does fall. Luckily, he did get his 2nd back up, but not going to be still behind on economy. Queen poking away at that Warp Prism. Doesn't look like he wants to engage, drop the Immortals just yet. These 2 chunky boys doing a lot of work against this Zerg for Cicero. But Zerg is starting to amass a little bit of an army. Maybe just wants to play it safe. Maybe fly home, regroup, take stock of his economic advantage, and you know, as they say, while ahead, get more ahead. But scouts the new 3rd for the Zerg going down, flies right over it, but he's looking like he's pathing into the main, just trying to get more and more damage. Hydra's popping. Those Hydras will help clean up that Warp Prism, but another Queen goes down. 22 kills on 1 Immortal, 21 on the other. As the Lings flood in, this is probably going to be it. The Warp Prism picks them up as the Hydras appear, flies out just in time. He could drop those Immortals as the rest of the Protoss army. Protoss has not been sitting idle at home, building up sentries, Immortals, and that Colossi. This is going to be a scary composition with a couple of Guardian Shields and that splash from the Colossus. Really going to be effective against the Zerg comp. Drops those force fields, cuts off the rest of the Zerg reinforcements. Cuts himself off as well, though. Huge round of warp ends through that War Prism. Going to get some Zealots on the front, acting as that meat shield, protecting all of those squishy units standing behind it. Those Zealots will make quick work of anything the Zerg throws at them. Picking off the Overlords a little bit. Zerg looks like he's pulling back, trying to regroup, trying to get everything he can, but he sees the writing on the wall. There's the GG. Game 1 goes to Cicero and the Google BetaStars. So, GG for Google, which I suppose goes both ways. Google on the winning and losing end of that one, of course, with our Civil War matchup we have between the BetaStars and Yam. BetaStars taking map 1. Just a lot of aggression from the Protoss, making sure that Zerg just never gets his economy off the ground. That pylon block being so annoying, forcing the Zerg to move his natural to the third, and then those two Immortals coming in, that high-tech army just wrecking everything that the Zerg could throw at him. Zerg never quite able to put up a good defense, and when the Death Ball came in, that was all she wrote. So, with one game in the bank, we're going to be moving on to game number 2 on King's Cove. King's Cove is going to feature a PVT. We'll get that replay loaded up real quick, and we'll be right back. Alright, going into game number 2 on King's Cove. BetaStars versus Yam. Starting in the upper left, for Yam, RS Kalatosis, our blue Terran. He'll be facing off against our pink Protoss this time. In the lower right, Kids, for the BetaStars. So, again, if you're just tuning in, this is Week 2 replay of the Corporate Esports Association Starcraft 2 Spring 2019 season. Our corporate esports teams battling for the right to award the prize money to the charity of their choice. We're in it to have some fun and to help out some good causes. Back into the game, Terran going ahead and dropping his barracks at the ramp, getting that wall off going with his first gas. Our Protoss also getting his gas down and his gateway. Gateway in an usual position, putting it sort of along the backside. Maybe has different ideas. Not as concerned about a big run by from the Terran. Not a lot of action so far. PVZ on this map, pretty standard. Not really favored one way or the other. Probe now getting onto the ramp. Going to harass that SCV a little bit. Give him a little bit of tickle juice. But the barracks does finish. Doesn't seem to be a big deal. Terran trying to decide what to do with the probe in the base as he warps in his orbital and finishes the wall with the Marine coming out. Protoss going ahead and starting his... that's a good call from my co-observer here. Helping against those Reapers, keeping the Reaper out of the back line, just sort of keeping him pinned in just in case. Nexus going down, though. Looks like he wants to get that fast expand going. Cyber Core almost finished. He's going to be able to warp in those heavier tech units. Meanwhile, in the Terran base, looks like he's going to tech up a little bit. Going ahead and dropping that factory. Getting a supply depot. Good placement on that supply depot. Just checking for all that dead void space over here on the right, making sure no funny business can fly in. And if it does, he'll be aware. 2 gas down for the Terran. It usually indicates some kind of heavy tech play. As we can see the starport now going down. Tech lab dropped on that factory, so we could see some tech play. Maybe some Marines and tanks with medevac to support. He might be using that tech, and there's the siege tank started. No expansion yet. Looks like the RS Kalatosis is ramping up for one base timing here. Get some aggression in early. Try to neutralize that Protoss economy advantage. Meanwhile, Protoss has his shield battery going down at first, continuing to use those gateways as a SimCity, blocking off access to the mineral line from any kind of run by Hellions, Reapers, that sort of thing. Adept and Sentry sitting out front. Sentry getting warped in early, help it build up some of that early energy. Going to be really critical if he needs to defend here, especially with that heavy attack coming out of the Terran. 5 Marines and tank moving across the map with the Liberator and another tank being produced. Warp Gate almost finished for the Protoss. Looks like it might be just in the nick of time as this army continues to cross the map. King's Cove, not a particularly small map. Does require a little bit of a walking distance, especially for these slow units without a medevac or something to help bring them across. Marine's just going to poke up here on the ramp, see what he sees. He's going to see that shield battery. Siege tank going to siege, but it's going to be just within range of that shield battery. No vision, though. Starts shelling the units as they come down, being really aggressive with these Adepts. They move out of the Liberator range. Adepts and Sentry cleaning up the tanks, cleaning up the Marines. Adepts do so much damage against those light units. Liberator's going to decide, well, he's going to fly on home. As the rest of the army that had been rallied across, solo Marine and a tank also heading back. Protoss starting to take a strong economic lead now. Dropping one more shield battery, a couple more gateways, just for safety. As that warp prism is being warped in, give him a chance to move across the map. 3rd shield battery wants to put down now. Really concerned about this Terran push that's coming out. Terran just doesn't have a lot at home. Just now, finishing up his command center at the Natural. 2 Liberators and a tank sieged here at the front. Anything that walks in going to be blown to smithereens. Not much they're going to be able to do there. 2nd tank rolling up. Looks like this Warp Prism is going to start moving across the map. He sees if he can get his own harass in. Banshee coming out for the Terran. Banshee not able to shoot up. Liberator's not as proficient at shooting at. It's going to be hard for him to shut down this Warp Prism. Looks like he's going to stop the Warp Prism. Get a couple of Warp Pins maybe. Pick them up and take them to the main base. Opting for the Adepts. Adepts will do tremendous damage against those light workers with that bonus damage. Only 3. Looks like he wants to keep most of his resources tied up back home. Adepts get dropped off. They're going to hang out in the center of the base. Shade, looks like a defensive shade. They're going to walk over and decides not to cancel that shade. Gets a worker kill, but then I guess goes to hang out back with the Warp Prism. It's a really nice view there of the beach of the coast. reminds them sort of Lost Ire, maybe. But while those Adepts are in the Warp Prism, won't be able to get shot by that Banshee. And with that Absorber there, any kind of cloak technology not going to be effective. Cloak not yet researched for our Terran, but nonetheless, our Protoss is prepared with an Observer. Warp Prism coming back in, flying right through that Banshee. Just a fist bump for good measure. Tank setup though, now that the Terran's aware of Protoss presence in the upper. Workers confused for a moment. Viking coming over here, recalling that Warp Prism. Really good call on the Protoss. Going ahead and bringing it home. Really confuse that Viking when he flies out with his launch orders. There's just nothing there. The Adept Light upgrade also being researched. Looks like our Protoss wants to double down on those Adepts, make them just as good as they can possibly be. Serious SimCity here in the Protoss natural. As his third, just about finished now, wants to maintain that economic lead he's had on the Terran this whole time. Terran really starting to catch up in workers, 41 workers to 51. With those mules, Terran will be able to keep on par with the mineral income, but once the Protoss drops his gases, it's going to be a serious tech advantage for him. So Protoss really starting to build up this sort of gateway death ball. Stalkers, Adepts, Sentries, got an Immortal in there for good measure, and the Observer just sort of watching things from the top. And that's a very interesting upgrade from our Terran, going ahead for the high-sec auto-tracking. Probably wants to drop a couple of missile turrets to help protect his perimeter. Just wants to turtle up much as he can. Doesn't have a lot of army at home. They're sort of scattered. A lot of these Vikings just being used to patrol around the base, make sure there's no warp prisms coming in. Siege tanks sitting, protecting the mineral line, as well as the siege tanks sitting up front. Scans the Protoss third, sees Protoss third already saturated. That's got to give the Terran a moment of pause, seeing how far ahead this Protoss is. These Liberators moving across the map are going to need to do a lot of worker damage as the in order to keep this game from getting out of hand. Ground weapons finishing for the Protoss, as well as high-sec auto-tracking finishing for the Terran. Not sure how useful that's going to be. Siege up for the Liberators in this mineral line. Looks like the probes, one gets caught, two get caught, but the rest make it out just in time. Stalkers all selected. Looks like they're just going to hang out. They're not too worried about these Liberators. Cannon in the main with a pull is going to completely deflect the Liberators. Not a lot of damage done. Not what the Terran had hoped for. But looks like he's going to fly those Liberators home. Maybe come up with a new plan. Dropping his third now, fully built. Is going to try to get himself back in the economy game, pumping out those SCVs. Close the worker gap, 53 to 59. Very respectable for the Terran economy at this level. But the Protoss sitting on the superior economy this entire time, now taking a commanding army lead, 98 supply to 56. Let's take a look at that Protoss army. It's sitting here defending its third. Just a hodgepodge of units. Zealots, Adepts, Sentry, Stalkers. It looks like he's throwing the entire Protoss playbook at this guy. Kids is. Meanwhile, looks like Terran is about ready for a push, getting some really bulky mechanical units going. That Thor leading the charge. A couple of tanks, Liberators, Vikings, a couple of Marines just tailing for good measure, and they're going to meet here in the middle. Protoss has an excellent concave. And it looks like he just cleans up the Terran. Liberator siege for good measure. Gonna get some hits on. Doesn't look like they're gonna take out much. Vikings, they're just gonna fly home. Didn't put much of a dent in this superior army. Both Terran and Protoss sitting on 1-1. Of course, those Protoss upgrades scaling so well. Gonna give him a small advantage there. Two battlecruisers fixing to jump in for the Terran, though. We'll see if he can hold Vikings landed just to give him just a little bit more firepower. Tank doing what he can to shell the engagement, but the Protoss army is just moving in. These landed Vikings trying to hold the ramp, waiting for the battlecruiser. Battlecruiser is very close to popping, but the Protoss army not marching on his door. Doesn't have a whole lot at the front to deal with that battlecruiser, but when these stalkers move in, they start to do lots of damage. Storms going down on the workers, as Protoss is just absolutely demolishing this Terran base. Looks like he's going to take out, move into the back there, take out that fusion core. No more battlecruisers. Taking out the tech, took out most of his workers. 23 workers down for the Terran, but still sitting at 41. Has been producing very heavily. With that main disappearing, though, that's gonna hurt for the Terran. Picking off whatever he can, deciding to go for the Terran infrastructure now. Liberator sieging up. He just needs to move his army where they get cleaned up. Second battlecruiser now rejoining the fray, while the rest of the Protoss army deciding to jump home. Massive engagement there between the two armies. Eventually getting the cleanup, but still, economic advantage for our Protoss, still sitting on now 4 bases, about halfway done with that 4th base. Meanwhile, the Terran needs to rebuild, drops the mules for the repair on the battlecruiser. Really hurting for workers, needs all those workers focused on collecting money, getting that gas income. Goes ahead and scans the natural again, just taking a look, trying to find the army, where it might be located. Sees those immortals walking across. Does not see the massive stalkers, though. Those stalkers are really going to hurt the battlecruisers jump across. It looks like they're trying to get some damage in on the main. Sorry, I missed that. Stalker's going to be coming back, but in the meanwhile, a couple of Void Rays pop with that shield battery. That's going to be so good. Void Rays taking virtually no damage as the battlecruisers are destroyed. Not long enough on that cooldown to jump back home. Protoss continuing to throw every unit in the book. Void Rays on the field. Tempest being warped in. With that fleet beacon finished. Lots of upgrades going down now. Air 1 weapons for the Protoss. Ship 2 and Ship Vehicle 2 done for the Terran. Looks like these stalkers are going to move across the field now, joined by the Immortals. Excellent point by our replay observer. Lost his racks, can't make factories. That's going to pretty much limit him to keep staying on this starport tech. Landed Viking's not the worst. He's going to need to get some repair going on that planetary, but there's just so much DPS. Storms going down on the workers. Those immortal shots to Void Rays, and there's a GG. Kids from BetaStars takes map 2, puts the BetaStars up 2-0 in the map, in the series. So another good series from our Google teams. BetaStars now taking a commanding lead in the series, 2-0. A really good, sort of unusual matchup there from our two players. Sort of a very diverse comp out of our Protoss, really just trying to make the most of all of the units that he has available to him, countering that really heavy tech play from our Terran. The tech play, not quite enough. Stayed a little behind on economy, wasn't able to catch up with any of his harassment. And the Protoss was able to just power ahead and ultimately take out the Terran. So, take a real short break while we go ahead and load up the next map in the series between Google BetaStars and Google Yam. We'll be right back. And we're back. Now we're going into Cyber Forest LE between Google BetaStars and Google Yam. Starting off in the lower right for the Google BetaStars, the captain himself, Rezasib. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Our green Zerg. In the upper left of Cyber Forest for Google Yam, our blue Terran, Cineon. Once again, if you are just now joining us, as we scan across the map, we are casting Week 2 replays from the Corporate Esports Association. All of our corporate teams coming together, having some fun, playing some Starcraft, hoping to win some money for charity at the end of the season. Glad to have you all joining us as we continue to work our way through the season. Week 3 games start today, Saturday, at 3 p.m. Eastern, or convert to your local time zone. Very standard openers so far from our players. Fast hatch going down for a Rezazip. Meanwhile, Terran go ahead and get his barracks down, going for a double gas. Looks like some fast tech play once again. Go ahead and getting all those workers in the gas. Maybe see some factory starport, more factory starport play. Going ahead and getting the reactor down on his barracks is going to allow him to pump out Marines very quickly. Or he can go ahead and switch his factory over and maybe get some Helium play. A very common opener in TVZ. Meanwhile, in the Zerg base, spawning pool going down, just one gas. That one gas should be enough to go ahead and get him Zergling speed if he's so inclined. Meanwhile, continuing to drone up, getting the queen out at his natural. First 4 lings coming out for our green Zerg. 4 lings, give him a good chance to scout the map, give him some good map control. Make sure the Terran can't secure everything. Ling speed also being researched. Once again, Terran doing a really good measure here. Getting that supply depot on the outer part of his base gives him that map vision. It's going to allow him just to, really be able to notice drops, mutas, any kind of airplay flying in. Really big mains on this base, on this map. Very susceptible to the Nidus worms, all of this open space, especially with players who like to stay really clustered. That barracks, or the factory picking up after building that tech lab, looks like he's going to do a quick switch on that starport when it finishes. We could see a battlecruiser rush here. Meanwhile, Marines continuing to get produced on that reactor. Factory building a second tech lab now. Still no expansion for the Terran though. No battle cruisers, but we will be going straight into Banshees with Cloak and a tank now coming out of the factory. Metabolic boost just about finished for the Zerg. Give him a chance to run around with those lings. A couple of queens out for the Zerg. He's going to get his creep going. Creep, another excellent way for him to get map vision. As well as his third started. Third, really going to keep him in the economic game. As a Zerg, you really want to be one base ahead of your opponent. Really give you a chance to be reactive, make the army that can deal with whatever your opponent decides to throw at you. Spore Crawler going down in the natural. It seems like our Zerg has got that sort of supernatural sense there. He knows what the Banshee timings are. That Spore Crawler will keep those Banshees from mowing down his workers. Roach Warren also going down. Looks like a pretty simple tech play. Spore Crawler already finished. Evo Chamber going down in the back. That's going to give our Zerg a chance to get his own upgrade started. Start bulking up that army. Maybe wants to go into a Roach Ravager, Roach Hydra type composition. Third now finished with the Queen waiting just as the creep connects it. Really good execution there. And the Queen's chopped down that Banshee with very little effort. Seems like he was ready for that. Obviously, Banshee Opener's always been very popular in TVZs. But with the buffs that the Queens have gotten over the years, less effective than it once was, especially with somebody as prepared as Rezazib. Flood of Lings now starting to move across the map. Looks like he wants to do some damage. He's going to move across the map. Hang out here for a second. Baneling Nest almost finished. Looks like he's going to get a big bust. Ling here realizes there's no expansion from the Terran. But hold the phone. Cloak Banshee in the main now, focusing down that spawning pool. If the spawning pool goes down, there's going to be no more Lings from our Zerg. Granted, has plenty of tech available. Roaches, Banelings, but not doing anything to stop the Banshee. Just continuing to go to town. Queen moving up now to poke it down. Spore Crawler getting set. Is he going to stop it? Stops it just in time. Spawning pool was starting to burn down. 43 health. Much lower than he probably needed to let it go. So ultimately that Banshee not doing a lot of damage. Not the damage he wanted. New spawning pool finished just in case. Don't want that burning spawning pool to cause any problems. But now the Terran army's moving across, and he's been producing Marines and tanks this entire time. This is kind of scary, but as he moves onto the map, those Lings engaging on creep, not the best move for the Terran as the Lings move in and surround the army. Marines get cleaned up. Half of that may just be the tank shells. Several of the tanks fall. Queen's stepping up now to defend. Even more Lings coming out, and these Lings will easily be able to clean up the attack. That puts our Zerg in a good position now. Army supplies relatively tied, but major worker advantage for our Zerg. 40 workers to 27. Terran, of course, has those mules. That's their catch-up economy mechanic, but with those 3 bases fully established for our Zerg now, he's going to get his production ramping into high gear. Spire going down, maybe moving into some airplay, as well as ground melee attack 2, and the centrifugal hooks for the Banelings. First Banelings now being morphed. A little bit of a belated bust, but now with that Terran natural being put down, has something to attack. Terran falling further and further behind until they can get this second saturated. A couple of tanks here at the front, a couple of Marines. Probably won't be enough to deal with this this engagement. First shells come in, Lings running in. Banshee, the Banelings get some connections. Not a large connection, but plenty enough to clean up. Lings chewing away at the natural. Meanwhile, another Banshee's moving in. Banshee with a Liberator support this time. Queen trying to take out that Liberator while the Banshee's just going to town. Again, focusing down the Spore Crawler. Looks like he's maybe just going to get it down in time to kill it before it can do any major damage. Back at home, the Terran Natural decides to lift off. He's got those SCVs working hard to repair it. Don't want that thing to burn down. But there's no detection here for the Zerg. Spore Crawler there. They'll clean up that Banshee. Liberator still sitting here on the mineral patches though. Gonna keep anyone from working. This Queen's mosey right around, get the angle on the Liberator, clean it up. Very annoying play from our Terran. Just keeping that Zerg from really macroing as hard as he wants. A couple of mutas there on the field though, as you can see, with the Overseers. Zerg is well prepared to deal with anything that the Terran continues to throw at him. So, Terran getting himself re-established on the natural. No third in sight yet. Starting to build up that infrastructure. A couple of barracks. Still pumping out Liberators. Second lands again. Starts putting up that wall. Learns from his mistakes. Decides letting the Lings in for free. Not the best decision. Meanwhile, Zerg Army trying to sneak around the side. Those Lings moving up with the Muta support. Those Mutas will be able to take out those tanks while the Lings go in and swarm the Marines. Instead, he's going to just go ahead and move into the main with the Mutas, try to catch everything from behind. Pulling the Marines back as the Lings run in. The Lings are going to take out the tanks while the Mutas kite the Marines around. Muta's not being very effective, but the Lings are. The Overseer is also soaking some damage, perhaps unintentionally. Ling's going to continue to clean up. Now that those Liberators are out of siege mode, Muta's unsure of what to do, and our Terran decides to GG out. Victory goes to Rezazib and the BetaStars. That's a 3-0 victory. Congratulations to the BetaStars for victory in this series. A little bit of indecisive action, perhaps on the side of both sides. Moved around a little bit between the different tech. Terran not able to get as much work done with his early harass on his with his Banshees. First couple of Banshees getting shut down completely. Eventually being able to bring in a couple more in order to get some damage in. But meanwhile, Zerg just continuing to outproduce the Terran, replace those missing workers, and get the counter army going. So that will wrap up our first series this morning. Google BetaStars taking the series 3-0 against Google Yam. We're going to take another quick break while we look for the next set of replays to load. We will see you all shortly. Thanks for tuning in to CEA Spring 2019 Starcraft Week 2. Alright, sorry about the extended break there. We're going to be go ahead and moving into our next series here between Facebook Legacy and FindX, the Australian company. One of these you've heard of, the other ones you probably haven't. Same map pool again. These are our Week 2 maps for Corporate Esports Association Spring 2019 Starcraft 2 season. We're going to go right into the action. Starting in the lower right, for Team Facebook is Frugs, with some friendly good manner going out in chat. In the upper right, our Orange Zerg from Team FindX, Analyt. And again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing any of these names. I don't know any of these players personally. I have not talked to them, so we're going to have to just run with it. ZVZ. ZVZ has a tendency to be a little bit cheesy. There's a lot of different build orders, ways that you can counter your opponent. Frug's going ahead and throwing down the fast hatch, looking for that little bit macro opening with his gas. Meanwhile, our Orange Zerg going ahead and throwing down that spawning pool first with the extractor. Going to have a little bit of advantage getting his lings out quicker. Meanwhile, Frug's is going to have that larva advantage, having that hatchery about halfway done now, with his own spawning pool started shortly behind. Obviously, these replays are storing the chat from the live game, which was played last Saturday. Being on Australia time, there is a little bit of lag, a little bit of delay, just going from those servers on the far side of the world to the servers on this side of the world. But good manners between our two players. It seems like we're going to just go ahead and play through it. Well, they obviously did, because the game exists. Natural going down for our Orange Zerg now. Analyt, with his first couple of lings out on the map. Overlord flying over is going to see them. With these Orange Overlords just now getting to the main base. Pretty close timing from both sides. He's going to see that Natural already getting some workers out onto it. He's going to know that he's a little bit behind in terms of economy. But the Pinks are rallying his lings behind his main. Looks like he might be trying to hide while the Orange lings run in. Queen able to run those couple of lings away while the rest of these lings come out. Pinkling gonna poke up here. Gonna see those other two lings decide to run away. A lot of chat going in the chat replay there. Tons of a huge flood of lings coming out for Pink Zerg. Still doesn't have any workers at the Natural, but moving across the map now. This is a lot of lings. There's 16 more lings in production. Orange is going to have nothing at home. Tries to get the wall off. Looks like it's going to be a full wall with the Roachworn and double Evo. Spinecrawler coming down behind it, but there's so many lings at the front chewing through those. Gets the second Evo down, not able to complete the wall though. And there's a GG. Lings get into the base. Quick game. First victory going to Frugs on Team Facebook. And I'm just now noticing, of course, that I did not update the overlay. My apologies to the teams. We'll go ahead and get that fixed. GG to our players here. Map 1 going to Facebook. Sort of a weird game there. some weird timings, probably being affected by the lag, by the latency, just on those, opposite sides of the world servers. But Facebook coming out with a heavy aggression, just flood of lings, and FindX not able to get in, got his wall down. Not enough hit points on those buildings though to stop the lings from chewing their way through. So victory number 1 on Port Alexander going to Facebook. We'll be moving into game number 2 here shortly. Take a short break and we'll be right back. As promised, we are back. Fixing to go on to Kings Cove, map number 2 on week 2 of our Corporate Esports Association Spring 2019 season for Starcraft 2. Matchup between Facebook Legacy and FindX. And we're going to jump right into the action here, getting the replay going. In the upper left corner, our teal Terran from Team FindX, Jim Gaynor. On the lower right, our orange Protoss from Team Facebook, Sour Spinach. Sour Spinach, not apparently a big fan of his vegetables, but we all know spinach is good for you. Everybody wants to be Popeye. Dropping that pylon, probe starting to move across the map. Looks like he wants that early scout in. Meanwhile, Terran starting his wall at the ramp of his main, just trying to get some basic protection there going. Starting the barracks, very standard opener so far on both sides. No gas at the moment, as the SAV starts working on the first factory, and of course the Pro dropping the assimilator at the same time, proving that the caster knows nothing about Starcraft. Gateway going down for the Protoss. Again, maybe looking to get out some units to get an easy harass here. Probe moving out, maybe wants to start that natural. As soon as he gets 400 minerals in the bank, sitting at about 300 right now. Both players starting to float a little bit. SCV coming in is going to see the probe over there. Knows that the Protoss is probably looking to expand, looking to go into a little bit more of a macro game. Nexus is dropped on Q, and the orbital started for the Terran. Terran not electing to do anything with his money. Looks like he may also be waiting for the money to start his second. Meanwhile, SCV decides to leave the Protoss base after getting zapped. Reaper started for the Terran. That Reaper will give him a good opportunity to jump into the base. Lots of surface area here, all the way around the base for that Reaper to just hop in and out of the vision of the main base. Get some scouting information, maybe get a couple of drone kills. Either way, be able to put in some work. The command center started for the Terran. He looks like he also wants to play a little bit more of a macro game, and deciding to put the reactor on his barracks. We'll slow his production down for a few minutes, but once it's down, he's going to be able to get those Marines out very quickly. Also, second barracks going down, so really committed to that barracks play. Reaper coming across now. Looks like he wants to use that low to high ground. Going to jump right into the main. Stalker there is ready. It seems that Protoss has seen this play before. Obviously, Kings Cove, very popular map for Reapers. And he's set that Stalker there almost intentionally. Nexus at the second is up now. Reaper hanging out at the destructive debris with the Stalker moving down, ready to protect it. Seems the Stalker is just pretty cognizant of where that Reaper is at all times. Reaper just going to back out, take a moment, heal his wounds, and maybe jump right back in. Really being used as effective scouting mechanic here. He's going to see that Robo going down. He's going to know Protoss is ready to advance in tech. Sentry going to try to zap that Reaper on his way out. Isn't going to get much done. Back in the Terran base, the orbital for the second is finished. He's going to start floating that over. Probe sitting there in the natural is going to see that, unless the Marines can drive it away first. They get the kill on the probe as the orbital begins to land. Terran starting to work up that production. Multiple barracks, starport, and factory. Getting the reactor going on that factory. Maybe he wants to pump out Hellions. Maybe he wants to go Widow Mines. A couple of different options there. Meanwhile, looking at our Protoss base, we see a robotics bay going down. We could see Colossi, very effective against the Terran Bio. Could also see Disruptors. Disruptors not a terribly common unit in a lot of professional play. Just very micro-intensive and less of a payoff. Close game so far, though. Looking at the supplies, small army advantage for our Terran Jim Gaynor, 22 to 17, while the Protoss getting that little bit earlier Nexus and chronoing those probes, having the worker lead 44 to 33. Of course, the Terran with the mules can keep up in the mineral income. And as long as those gases are saturated, he will also be good to go. 5 minutes in, doesn't look like either player really wants to commit to third base, really pushing hard on what looks to be a effective two-base timing. Colossi coming out with the Thermal Lance upgrade, so Protoss committing to very Wings of Liberty style strat here. Going to try to burn those Marines as they're streaming across. Stim just about finished for our Terran, and that's going to be his cue to hit the afterburners and jet across the map in his medevacs. 2 medevacs chock full of Marines. This is a scary situation with those combat shields. So we're going to see what kind of damage he can do against the Protoss, and see if he can cut into that worker lead, or perhaps cancel some of his other technology. Reaper, of course, being real annoying here. Shutting down that probe, looks like he wanted to expand. Dropped the pylon out front. More gateways coming down. Protoss doing a very good job having those scouting buildings out there. Going to see this drop coming. A lot of dead space below the bases, though. As the army moves out at seemingly the wrong time. Medevacs jet into the main. Colossi will be able to walk right up and fry these guys. Stalkers, everything else are going to come all the way around. Tons of splash damage on those Marines. Marines just getting wasted by that Colossi. Only 3 left. Hasn't done a whole lot of damage with them. Drop is cleaned up as those medevacs jet on out. Army starts walking across around the base, looking for a chance to stop them. Medevacs look like they're going to rally up to the corner and head on home. Find another set of Marines to heal. Meanwhile, Protoss Army starting to look very scary. Now up 20 supply, 55 to... Well, as a lot of Marines pop for Jim Gaynor, now 44 supply. But maintaining that worker lead as well. Scan going down, just checking out the Protoss base. Terran Army starting to build up as well. Those Marines, those Marauders. Marauders would be very effective against these Colossi and the Stalkers, but Marines are going to really struggle with the Colossi, especially with that Thermal Lance upgrade. Medevacs from their failed journey arrive home. report back into High Command and tell them the Protoss are expanding. 3-base Protoss now. This is where it starts to get a little bit scary as they're able to fully power that Death Ball. Getting all of those gateways, upgrades, Robo, all in production at the same time, putting out those high-tech, tough units. Terran needs to be pretty scrappy here. Getting his third down, that's going to be really effective at keeping him in the game economically. But we're going to need to see the Terran do some damage here before the Protoss can build up that Death Ball to just overwhelm and win the game. Just misses the Observer. Observer right on the edge of that scan. Terran may think he's being a little paranoid, but he just missed it. Deciding to go ahead and move ahead with these 2 medevacs as the rest of the army moves across the middle of the map. Is going to want to do maybe a 2-pronged attack here. Sort of distract, pull the army away with these 2 backsides flanking medevacs while the main army engages in the front. Nothing much here to defend. 1 cannon, not really going to stop them. Meanwhile, the bulk of the army, a few Vikings, Marauder, etc. Oh, as the drop moves in, not effective multitasking from the Terran. Takes out that cannon, sees a couple of Stalkers coming back to reinforce, decides to move out. At the same time, is handily deflected at the front by the bulk of the Protoss army. Those Zealots moving in, taking out the tank, taking out all the ground forces while the Vikings just fly home. Protoss deciding, well, that was probably all the Terran forces. This is an opportune time for me to attack. Gonna start moving up to 3rd himself. Nothing here at home to defend for the Terran. At least at the 3rd. Army is close by at the 2nd. Gets the scan off, clips the edge of the army. He knows it's there. He's gonna reposition himself. Wants to get those tanks in siege mode quickly before this army engages. Storm going down. Tons of damage on those bio units. Between storms and those colossi just tearing through everything that the Terran has. Knocking down that 3rd base now. Continuing to storm on units coming down out of the main. Just nothing. The Terran looking for something rallying his units to defend here. It's going to pull everybody back to the main and hope for the best. Doesn't have much coming out and has lost most of his mineral income with the 2nd and the 3rd down. While this Protoss, seemingly invincible Protoss army, hasn't been chipped away at all. Just continues to wreak havoc. It's not clear what the Protoss is going to do. This looks like it could be it. We're expecting a GG here any minute. Maybe hoping that those are hallucinated colossi. It's hard to say. 2 more medevacs coming home from the other side of the map. They're going to see the devastation being wrought. And there's the GG from FindX. Another victory for Facebook Legacy. Facebook Legacy takes a 2-0 lead in the series. So GG to Facebook. Another well-fought match there. Both sides deciding to macro up a little bit more, a little bit of a longer map than our first one, of course. Banking on sort of a heavy 2-base sort of composition going into 3-base. Protoss maintaining a little bit of advantage the whole time, while the Terran just slightly behind, not able to do much damage with the drops that he anticipated, and then Protoss just hard countering that bio composition with the Colossi Storms combination. So we're going to take a short break, quick 2-minute break, as we load up the next match in the series, and we'll see if Findex is able to bring it back against Facebook Legacy. We'll be right back. And we're back. Welcome back. This is CEA Spring 2019 Starcraft 2 Week 2 of the regular season. We are currently looking at a series of replays from between Facebook Legacy and Findex. Moving into map number 3, Cyberforest LE. Facebook currently up 2-0 in this best of 5. Findex hoping to take one map. Maybe start a reverse sweep, take the series. We'll find out now as we begin to jump into the replay. So, starting off on Cyberforest LE, in the lower right corner, our pink Protoss Jackal from Team Findex. In the upper left corner, our red Zerg from Team Facebook, Waylord. Again, if you're just tuning in, you are watching replays from last week, week 2 of Corporate Esports Association, where all of our corporate esports teams have come together to have fun, play some Starcraft, and the winner will take home a good chunk of money for charity. We're all getting together, having fun for a good cause. A little bit of chat in the replay from our observers. Of course, Findex, Australian company, playing with a considerable bit of latency and lag, but seemingly not letting that deter them as they continue to battle it out here. Overlord's coming across the map. Drone just gonna chew away at that pylon block, being very annoying from Jackal. Drone will decide he's gonna just go expand somewhere else. The probe just standing in the way, linebacker in his way. Oh, gonna drop pylon again. This is very annoying from the Protoss, committing a good bit of money while the Zerg just can't expand. Meanwhile, Jackal at home getting his own expansion up, going Nexus before Gateway. In fact, also dropping a Forge. Just maybe get a cannon or two up to help help with that defense. Meanwhile, that probe almost chewed down. That jet drone is out for blood. He's been blocked twice now. But those probe shields will rejuvenate. This pylon at the third base was cancelled. Looks like we may have had a pause there. A little bit of extra chat popping up all of a sudden as the Lings begin to flood out. He's going to take out this pylon and go ahead and take his second. Meanwhile, all that extra money from the Zerg meant he could go ahead and tech up. Getting that Roach Warren down, getting that Ling speed started, and going ahead and getting his own second started. These Lings are going to start moving across the map. They're going to take stock of what's happening on the Protoss side. Meanwhile, the Protoss, very effective wall here with the gateways. Cannon going down, going to finish just in time to start poking at those Lings. The Lings decide to rally and well, I guess they're going to move up here in a second. The longer they wait, the worse the situation is going to be. Cybercore finishing for the Protoss, going ahead and dropping that shield battery just in case. Very defensive turtle mechanism here. Did a lot of harassment keeping that Zerg on one base for as long as possible, giving him that chance to pull ahead economically. Protoss leading in the worker count 31-21. Large advantage this early in the game. Ling's just hanging out in front of the Protoss base. Doesn't look like they're ready to do any kind of scouting, but that one Stalker is enough to send them home. Meanwhile, Roach and a Ravager, singular Roach, singular Ravager start moving across the map. That Ravager is gonna give them some good siege ability. But it's going to be difficult fighting up that ramp. Those Lings will get chewed very quickly by that cannon and Stalker. And second Ravager, 3 Ravagers joining the field now. This is a an interesting sort of Ling Ravager composition. That shield battery refilling that cannon really quickly. Trying to take down that pylon. Pylon depowers large number of buildings. Stargate goes down. Shield battery goes down. Forge gateway. Warp gate can't be researched. The workers need to be pulled. This is... Protoss has got nothing to defend. Shield battery doing everything it can, but it is completely out of energy. Buildings get repowered not before 16 workers go down. Those Ravagers and Lings continuing to chew at the front wall there. Another Stalker goes down. 2 more workers. Chews away at that full wall and just starts to move in. More Lings running across the map. 1 Void Ray in production. That Void Ray could be the savior, but is it going to be too late? More and more Lings continuing to be produced for our Zerg, while that Hero Probe gets the wall up and goes ahead and calls the GG. Decide it's not going to be enough to take down. So, victory for Facebook. That will be the series then. Facebook wins the series 3-0. GG to Facebook. So, another well-fought series. Protoss looking very good early on, able to get the pylon blocks, really force the Zerg into bases, force him into an aggressive maneuver. Couldn't get those bases up, so decided to start building units. And Protoss being so greedy at home, just not enough to defend with when that Zerg army arrived. Wasn't able to get units out in time, wasn't able to keep the wall up. That Artosis pylon really biting him there. It looks like we actually have a 4th map in the replay book, in the replay pack. We'll go ahead and load that up. Of course, Facebook Legacy taking the victory here 3-0. But we'll see what this 4th replay has to say. We're getting some bonus Starcraft here, folks, and as soon as we get that loaded up, we'll be right back. And we're back with the bonus map, map 4, on Autonomon LE. Facebook Legacy has already taken the series 3-0, but everybody loves Starcraft, so we're going to go ahead and play this one out. And we'll go ahead and jump into it even. Replay is ready between Facebook Legacy and Findex in the lower right. The Orange Terran for Findex. Stoic Willie, a very noble and upright name. In the lower left are Red Protoss for Facebook Legacy. It is Pluto. Definitely no longer a planet. Fight me. Pluto dropping his pylon and sending the scouting probe across. We'll see if he continues the trend for the Protoss in this series to be very annoying blocking expansions with the initial probe. Probe moving across the map. Not the largest map, not the smallest map either. Awkward spawn positions, not quite in the corners. Probe will get into the main there. Takes a look, decides to hang out for a second. Sees first gas going down for the Terran. Just a single gas so far. Gonna go harass the worker working on that barracks. Second worker is gonna come back his buddy up, drive that probe away. That first CCV will stay alive, finish building that barracks, live to fight another day. Strange positioning for the gateway and pylon from our Protoss here. Go ahead and drop that Nexus on the low ground. Having the buildings out here, very effective if you're concerned about Reapers. Obviously a large surface area along the outside of the map, outside of your base here for Reapers to hop in and out, sort of at will. Having these buildings here reduce that surface area a little bit for Reapers. Of course, leaves the front wide open for a large army push. Second gas now finishing for the Protoss. As he's looking to hopefully maybe tech up, move into the next stage of this game. Terran starting his natural on the low ground, about halfway done with this. Probe will move in and see everything that's happening. As Terran continues to work on his tech tree, second refinery going down now, as well as a second barracks. Getting the add-on. Reactor just finishing for that barracks is going to allow him to pump out those Marines twice as fast. Reaper coming back home. Stop that probe. Puts the depot up in time. Reaper decides to go back to his original mission. He's going to move across the map, see what he can see. And what he's going to see is an Adept moving across the map. We'll see if they run into each other. Pathing looks good. Shades away. Adept gets some hits in. That Reaper's looking low. But Adept decides to go ahead and keep moving across the map. Reaper looks like he's ready to jump up into base, and he might face a face full of gateway there. Comes over, sees the Nexus. Nothing going on there. Walks up the front. What is this? 2017. A couple of probes come out, gets the killing blow. That is a killer probe right there, folks. Don't mess with that probe. Of course, Reaper does get the scout off on the Robo facility. Also sees the Twilight Council. Lots of tech going down for the Protoss. Back in the Terran base. Sorry I missed this, guys. Marines easily cleans up the Adept. Very few losses on either side so far. Both sides being very careful to scout, see what their opponent's doing, and react accordingly. Terran will start the supply depot wall. Just give him a little bit more of a defensive advantage here. Stalker pokes in, see what he can see. Marines are going to move forward. Death Stalker can kite those Marines effectively, but those Marines are not to be trifled with. There are more than enough here to deal with that. Observer coming across the map, continuing the trend here of just very good scouting. Just gonna go ahead and set up there in and a very good pickoff. Saw the shimmer of that observer moving across the map, goes ahead and scans and picks it off. Good catch by Stoic Willie. Both players being very sharp with their control so far. Continuing to macro up on both sides. Several Stalkers being warped in. Blink almost finished. Very good map for Blink, of course, for the same reason those Reapers can jump up and down those cliffs. Having those Stalkers able to hop up and down. But the Stalkers are going to run directly into the Marines. Marines backed up by those medevacs are going to be just a little bit more beefy. Stim is finished, and the Protoss is a little concerned, drops those 2 shield batteries, but the Terran bypass all of that, just decide to go straight into the base. Luckily, those Blink is finished now. Stalkers chase him right up. Can't get as far away as he'd like, but focusing down those Marines, not good enough. Those medevacs are there to heal it up, and the medevac with the 4 Marines in it gets picked off. The empty medevac living to fight another day, but that was an excellent pickoff from Pluto's Stalkers. Just shows the power of that Blink upgrade this quickly. Both sides wanting to play a macro game. Third base going down for our Protoss. Third base going down for our Terran as he starts that orbital. Just a very back and forth, very close game so far. Double Forge being dropped for our Protoss. It's going to allow him to get those upgrades started in a hurry. We were looking at the upgrades real quick. Mostly tech upgrades so far, just a Warp Upgrade and Blink for the Protoss and Stim for our Terran. But lots more coming down the pipe. Zealot Leg started for the Protoss. Robo Bay also started. Looks like he might want to go into some Colossi play. Very good counter to the Terran bio composition. These 3 Stalkers moving out across the map again. They're going to see what there is to see. Maybe see if that third base is started. A couple of Marines hoping to reunite with those medevacs. Probably looking to do the same thing. Both sides electing to macro up here, doing a little bit of a dance back and forth. Stoic Willie with the supply lead, primarily in workers. The 56 to 44 worker advantage, very good position for the Terran to be in, especially with those mules that help boost that mineral income. Also looking at a small army supply lead, 53 to 42. Those Marine Marauders and medevacs is going to be scary. Several Zealots here with Zealot Legs getting very close to finish. 1 shield battery here to defend. Just needs a few more seconds on those Zealot Legs. But until then, the concussive shells on those Marauders just going to continue to chew up. But here come the Hero Stalkers flanking around from behind. Tries to be tricky. Blinks in the front. Marauders say, sorry bro, we're not letting you do that. Good kiting from the Marauders here, keeping those Zealots at bay. But Stalkers now deciding to focus down those medevacs. Already taking out 2. Third going down. Zealots continuing to be kited. Looks like the Bio Ball will come out ahead here, but the Colossi shows up. Bio Ball needs to keep running back halfway back to the Terran base by now. Decides to warp home the Colossi, but not in time. Colossi gets taken down before the recall finishes. Protoss scrambling now. Warping in some more Zealots. Second Colossus on the field, getting more shield batteries down, and just this Marauder heavy composition right now. Just going to be very effective against everything the Protoss throws at them. A couple of Little Mines mixed in there just for just give him a little extra punch. No upgrade from him yet, but which means he's going to still be revealed after that shot. But Colossi able to do a lot of splash, but those Marauders, they're pretty chunky too. They're able to survive the Colossi thermal beams. That concussive shell keeping the Colossi from running away. He even gets the scan off to pick off the observer. Fun fact, shield battery is a lot less effective if there's no units nearby to help defend. Sees the big warp in now. Just a couple of Zealots. Thermal Lance almost finished for the Protoss. That might give him a chance to get back into this if he can get that range upgrade for the Colossi, but not much else. He's just scrambling for a last defense, last ditch hold. Terran going over twice the supply of the Protoss now. This could be our final engagement. A lot of those Marauders looking really red. Looks like they've been overstemmed. Widowmines get some good hits, kiting back those Zealots. That Colossi now the last line of defense. Not a lot of health on this bio. If he can get some good pickoffs, that medevac is completely empty, not able to heal anything. That shield battery just not enough. Not enough juice there to keep that Colossi alive as Marauders pick it away. Even more Widow Mines appearing. Just an overwhelming Terran force here. And Findex in the bonus match gets to take one victory. Of course, it won't count, as far as I'm aware, given that Facebook won the series 3-0 already. But a feel-good match for Findex, able to take a map off of their opponent's Facebook legacy. GG to both sides. It's been a really good series. We've seen some good macro games. We've seen a couple of cheesy games, some shorter games as well. But overall, a solid series between our opponents. GG to Facebook, and congratulations on their Week 2 victory. So with that series finished, I think we're going to look for one more set of replays to cast before we need to take a break before the live broadcast today. Live broadcast today, of course, will be at 3 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, I think I'm going the wrong way. 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, or noon if you're on the left coast. If you're just now tuning in, that's when the live action will start. These replays, of course, coming from last Saturday. These are the Week 2. Today is the start of Week 3 for CEA Spring 2019 Starcraft 2 regular season. So we're going to go ahead and find a new set of replays, and we'll be back in 5-6 minutes. Stay tight. Alright, we are back. Sorry for the slightly extended delay there. Just getting the next set of matches set up. We're going to be taking a look at IBM versus VISARD. IBM, of course, having one of the cheekiest names in the tournament. Very clever, using the Matter Mule as their logo there. As with the rest of our Week 2 matches, we'll be starting on Port Alexander. And we'll go ahead and get that replay loaded up. Starting in the lower right corner for IBM, Great Archon, the Blue Terran. And in the upper left corner, the red Protoss for VISARD, Lifehacker. Lifehacker going ahead and throwing down the chrono on his Nexus. Nothing producing out of it. Just feels good. Really get the... feels like you're doing something there. For those of you just now tuning in, of course, this is the CEA Spring 2019. Some observer chat. Of course, these are being played from replay. Anything gets said during the live broadcast will be shown in the replay as well. So this is the Corporate Esports Association Spring 2019 Week 2 Starcraft 2 season. We're getting all of our corporate teams together to have some fun playing Starcraft, pretend we're professionals for about an hour every week. And at the end of the day, the winner will decide where all the prize money goes. It'll all go straight to charity. We're here to support a good cause and have fun while we're doing it. So, taking a look at what our players are doing. Great Archon starting his wall on his ramp, getting that barracks up. Already has that supply depot queued, ready to go. Meanwhile, the Protoss looks like he wants to get a forge out along with his gateway, electing not to fast expand. Has those two gases down, but only one worker currently mining from it. Maybe a little indecisive about the tech route that he wants to go, giving himself quite a few options. Also deciding to go ahead and get the cannon down. The cannon give him a little bit of defense if he's worried about early aggression from our Terran. Maybe not the highest level play we're seeing here, but you know, CEA caters to all skill levels. Going ahead and dropping that second forge. Second forge is a good way to get more upgrades for your units. Definitely a longer term focused type of strategy. Meanwhile, Terran starting his command center on the low ground. This is going to let him get that economic advantage. Also deciding to be a little defensive, going ahead and dropping that bunker. Just one Marine on the field. Hopefully by the time that bunker's finished, he'll have more Marines to populate it. Still one gas for our Terran. Looks like he is really focused on the economy game and getting that infrastructure up and getting those workers out so that he can power into the mid game. Meanwhile, the Terran from the Reaper from the Terran has made it into the Protoss mineral line. All the workers get pulled to run that Reaper away. Reaper still doing damage. Looks like he's going to pick off one more worker before he bows out. Workers continuing to chase, decides to send about half of them home. Seems like with this sort of annoying Reaper play, Protoss struggling maybe a little bit with his micro, but hoping that maybe that upgrade advantage in the long run will pay off for him. Reaper continuing to pick off probes now. Reaper up to 7 kills. A lot of damage coming out from this Reaper. Maybe the Protoss not quite prepared to deal with it. Just continuing to mine. The Reaper may end the game on his own here. Unfortunately, there's a wide breadth of skill levels here in the CEA. Sometimes you will see these are everyday people, you and me, playing Starcraft, and that includes people all the way down to bronze level, all the way up to GM. We have the full breadth of people here in CEA. Unfortunately, sometimes it can be a little lopsided, but Protoss continuing to fight at home, dropping a couple more cannons. Those cannons will keep the Reapers away, probably be enough to defend against these 4 Marines walking in. However, not enough range on that cannon to defend the gateway there. It's going to get that Zealot out. Zealot's going to walk over, try to punch that Reaper in the face. If that Reaper doesn't micro, he's going to die. Just enough DPS there to stop the Zealot, though. Second Zealot coming out. 2 Marines try to engage that cannon. They're going to get picked off. Sort of been a long down spiral for our Protoss here. But kudos to him. Never give up. Never surrender. Fight the good fight. But with the tank showing up for the Terran, that's going to be... it's going to be... we should be getting very close to a GG here from the Protoss. 54-7 supply. Protoss sitting on just his worker supply right now. Less than he starts with. Down to 6 workers. Looks like he's just going to give the Terran the satisfaction of taking out the rest of the buildings. A couple more cannons. Another cannon coming up for the Protoss. This will keep him in the game for just a little bit longer. You do have to officially lose all your buildings to lose the game, but decides to go ahead and GG out. So first victory going to Great Archon for IBM. So, we've seen a lot of good Starcraft here in CEA, but you know, everybody gets a chance. Not the strongest outing for VISARD on map 1, but we're gonna look up in map 2. Hopefully, VISARD can get on the board, take that map back, and even the series. Meanwhile, IBM with their cheeky mascot hoping to maybe take an advantage, go up 2 maps to nothing into map 2. Map 2 will be King's Cove. King's Cove, as soon as we get the replay loaded up, we will jump right into it. So take about a 30-second break here, and we'll be right back. And we're back. We're going to go ahead and jump into map 2 between IBM and VISARD. VISARD hoping to take the game back from IBM, while IBM looking to go up 2-0 in the series here on King's Cove. So we jump right into the map. In the upper left corner for VISARD is Mrs. Wolf, our blue Protoss. In lower right corner, our orange Protoss for Team IBM is Howie's. PvP, mirror matchup. Anytime you have a mirror matchup, you have the opportunity for a lot of interesting play. Obviously, both sides have access to the exact same units. So countering yourself can be tricky. A lot of mind games, a lot of hard tech plays. So far, very equal on both sides. Both sides getting their pylon down. No scouting coming out yet. Mrs. Wolf just now deciding to send their pylon or their probe across the map. And of course, if you're just tuning in, we are watching week 2 of Starcraft for the CEA Spring 2019 season, Corporate Esports for Charity. Forge going down for our blue Protoss now, deciding to drop the Forge before the gateway, maybe trying to be a little bit more defensive. Seems that VISARD seems to encourage the defensive play, maybe a little bit more over maybe more standard play. Safe way to go. Definitely prevents any kind of all-in cheesy play from your opponents. Meanwhile, Howie's going a little bit more standard, getting the gateway, double gateways into Cybercore with the double gas going down. Is going to track down that teal probe in his base and zap him to death. Meanwhile, teal has their gas up. Gateway coming down. No workers in the gas yet. Maybe decided just go ahead and get that investment out of the way. Put the gas in, put the workers in when they're ready. Howie is, of course, looking to be aggressive here. Gets the proxy pylon down. Hasn't just now starting warp gate, so probably banking on the fact that Mrs. Wolf won't scout this out. If this pylon can stay standing, that gives him a very effective warp in route right under the teal Protoss's nose. Teal, though, continuing to macro out those workers, getting that gas saturated, getting that mineral line saturated. Sending a couple of probes over to the natural, maybe looking to bank up some minerals so he can drop the expansion. Meanwhile, a couple of zealots starting to move across the map for our orange Protoss, Howie's. These two zealots looking to get there in time. Very bold robo facility coming down for Howie's. Not only betting on this... and there's a second gateway. This second gateway will allow him to warp in on that pylon very quickly. Mrs. Wolf is in for a surprise. If this isn't scouted in short order, decides to drop the Nexus. This is bad news for Mrs. Wolf. Still doesn't know about this heavy attack that the orange Protoss is planning. The two zealots arrive, and they're going to start chewing away at this Nexus. We'll see if he can force a cancel out. Immortal started for Howie's. This Immortal just going to be, stronger than anything on the field for Mrs. Wolf. Mrs. Wolf still sitting on one gateway. Doesn't have the Cybercore out. No Stalkers. Looks like it's going to be a straight Zealot defense. And it's going to be a trouble. Warp Gate finishing now. 3 warp-ins coming in for Howie's. Those Adepts are going to be devastating to this Zealot army, just getting all the bonus damage against the light units. Mrs. Wolf trying to place the pylon out front, probably wants to get some cannons down, something to defend. Immortal making it out now, but just a strong army on the field for Howie's. Not much on the field for Mrs. Wolf. Got those cannons queued up, but hasn't started them yet. Looks like one of those probes that went to get minerals was going to get it. Those cannons just now being dropped, not probably going to finish in time. Howie's focusing down that pylon. That's going to make it really difficult to get those cannons out, but just within range of that other pylon. If he can snipe this other pylon, it's going to be game over for Howie, for Mrs. Wolf. Mrs. Wolf heavily supply blocked. Those pylons keep going down. Zealots getting chewed up. One cannon finishes, the second cannon finishes. Not powered though. All three finished. Round 1 weapons upgraded is finished. Small advantage for Mrs. Wolf, assuming they could get a army built up behind it, but the supply count right now, 54 to 18, 30 supply to 2 for Mrs. Wolf. Doesn't look like there's much that Mrs. Wolf's going to be able to do here as Howie begins to focus down the primary nexus. GG for Mrs. Wolf. Quick 2-0 from IBM. Looking very strong here. VISARD putting up a good fight. We do, you know, we're here for fun. We're not here to poke at people for being, you know, all of the matchups won't be necessarily fair or competitive, but Mrs. Wolf putting up a good fight. Still, you know, we love seeing all our players out here every week, regardless. So, with the quick 2-0 from IBM looking very good in this matchup so far. VISARD still in the running. They can still take a reverse sweep, maybe get some cheap wins, pull some cheese out against IBM, try to get some points on the board, just some feel-good victories maybe, and we'll see what they can do on Cyber Forest. We'll load up that replay, and we'll be back in about 30 seconds. And we are back for Map 3 between IBM and VISARD, going on to Cyber Forest LE. The replay is up, and we're going to jump right into it. In the lower right corner, our purple Terran. Purple, a little bit unusual color, but we'll see if that makes a difference for Team IBM against their opponent, VISARD. VISARD struggling a little bit coming out early in this match, but we'll see if the rest of the team can sort of pull it back. Our blue Terran for VISARD, We're going to call him Surge. Unfortunately, I'm not personally familiar with all these players, so I'm probably going to mispronounce their names. My apologies in advance. But Surge here, deciding to go ahead and get that gas first, building the barracks on the low ground, get a little bit of a forward wall going. Maybe wants to get some tech out in this TVT. Yet another mirror matchup. We just came out of a PvP. Moving into the TVT, Treadle deciding to get his full wall. Went ahead and started a barracks. It started his barracks, it started a supply depot, only using one worker to do it, just having that supply depot started there for the purposes of having a full wall. Wants to prevent any sort of scouting, but he doesn't have anything to worry about as the Blue Terran has not sent any workers across the map yet. Surge getting an Engie Bay down now. Engie Bay going to give him an opportunity to get those upgrades. Upgrades always great in Starcraft, but it'll also give him a chance to go ahead and drop some missile turrets, things that'll prevent Banshee play, any kind of air harass. Just very safe defensive maneuver. I've seen a lot of safe play from our VISARD team. Very conservative, very defensive. Keeps them from losing to the all-out cheese, but, you know, puts them a little bit behind on the economy game. Treadle's SCV there, just patrolling. Wants to check and see when the Blues natural goes down. Sees the SCV start working on the factory, though. That SCV is going to path over to the far side of the factory, keeps him out of harm's way. Marine pops, and the purple SCV decides to run on home. Meanwhile, lots of things happening in Treadle's base. Multiple barracks going down. He's going up to 3 barracks, dropping his double gas at the same time, as well as his second CC, just spending all of his money as fast as he can, trying to take advantage of whatever little lead he can get. The factory finishes for Sergi. Putting that reactor down on his barracks. Looks like he wants to be a little aggressive here. Getting a whole bunch of units out. Puts the starport down. Very interesting placement on the Terran buildings here. Putting all of his buildings up front. It forces any enemy engagement coming through the front ramp to work through the sort of high hit point buffer before it comes up into the main. Of course, the main where most of Sergi's income is coming from right now. Also building a second starport in the main, so maybe some Banshee play, maybe some Liberators. We'll see what he can do. Something a little bit more aggressive, perhaps. Starting to work on that front wall now. A couple of supply depots will keep the surface area low on that ramp, force anybody to engage behind them. Meanwhile, Treadle getting that second established now, starting the gas, has a barracks there for defense. Just, you know, not quite as extensive as Sergi Sim City in his natural, but would be effective against the low unit count at the moment. More units continuing to stream out for purple. Double reactor and a tech lab, and researching combat shields. So going to be a very beefy force that he's building up towards here. Could be looking at sort of a big 2-base push. However, if Treadle can get a couple of tanks out, it'd be very effective in holding his position here. Fusion core coming down. Ladies and gentlemen, can I get a fusion core dance? Looks like Sergi wants to go straight to battlecruiser. Getting that barracks down, just buy him a little bit more safety at the front. That'll help against this potential push. Treadle walking down the ramp with his units before deciding to maybe he wasn't ready to engage yet. Upgrades going for both sides. Ground weapons for their infantry going to finish slightly ahead for purple, but the blue infantry upgrade just right behind. Medevac out for Sergi. That'll give him a great advantage when he decides to engage with these Marines. No healing yet available for Sergi. For Treadle. Just now starting her first starport, but reactor going down on the factory. Maybe get some tech out. Combat shields finished. Stim is started. Really looks like he's looking for a specific timing here. Starts his infantry armor upgrade. Maybe wants to push around 1-1 with Stim. Pretty effective timing. Of course, your opponent has a lot of tools to deal with it. Tech Lab finished on the factory for Sergi. He can start producing tanks. Armory going down. That's going to allow him to get those vehicle and ship upgrades. We'll see what path he decides to go. Third starport finished. 2 reactors down on the other 2 starports. Any second now, we could start seeing battlecruisers coming out. These battlecruisers would be pretty effective against the army composition that Treadle has built so far, those Marauders, they can't shoot up, and those Marines less effective against the heavy armor that those battlecruisers start with. Of course, Sergi's still trying to get his economy ramped up, only half saturated on his main, and a handful of workers seemingly misrallied at the natural. Really unfortunate. Looks like he's clicked a unit and has several SCVs chasing that mule. First battlecruiser in production for Sergi, but on cue almost, Treadle decides to scan, sees all the tech. Part of the disadvantage of having all of your tech in your natural is your opponent can scan it, sees the fusion core, sees the armory, and sees that tech lab starport churning away. He's going to know what's coming as his army begins to walk up the ramp. Those Marines probably need to disengage and get behind that bunker. Not much here to defend. If he can hold out for another 15 seconds, that battlecruiser will pop and give him a really beefy defensive unit at home. But this purple army is not waiting. They decide to stem in, take that barracks down immediately. Battlecruiser just about to come out. Thor started in the factory just looking for those beefy units. The command center pops. Battlecruiser comes out. It's getting focused down. Not able to clean up those Marines fast enough. And it looks like the Treadle is really dealing a killing blow. Stops the fusion core. No more battlecruisers. Sergi decides to GG out. His cheese has been thwarted. GG to IBM and VISARD. Very good game. Definitely one that VISARD can feel good about after those first two. A competitive series. It'll be good to see win. Even these sort of lower level games as the Swiss style tournament regular season continues to evolve. We'll see people matched up a lot closer in skill level. It'll give us a view. We're so used to watching professional Starcraft played at a very high level. It's not the same level that all of us play Starcraft at. Let's be honest. It's sometimes it's good to enjoy the lower level strategies. And lower level people can be some of the most creative people you run into. So that's going to wrap it up for me for now. I'm going to take a short break and start prepping for the live matches. CEA Week 3 kicking off here in just a little bit more than an hour. We will be watching the Red Hat Hatlings going up against Google Yam, a matchup of 1-1 teams. We'll see who can kind of break out of that middle ground there. Stay tuned. We'll be back in about an hour. GG.